All right, everybody. Welcome into the Auburn Live Modcast, the Auburn Live Show, the Modcast edition. Appreciate everybody for joining us. I'm Justin Hokanson. With me, as always, are the fellows that make the AuburnLive.com go, Jeffrey Lee and Cole Pinkston. What's up, guys?
How about you, Hope?
What's up? What's up? I'm going with the headphones this week, trying anything to make the audio better here.
Man, you makes your head
Listen,
look
if
big
it's
as
not
hell.
bad, the people will tell you.
Look how big Cole's head is.
Look at it.
Maybe it's just a little head.
You inspired me, Jeffrey. I had to try that.
It really helps me.
In relation to the headphones, I just had a flashback of if you've never seen Tommy Boy. Have y'all seen Tommy Boy when he does the cold? Oh, I almost cold. I'm not saying you are, but when he says fat guy in a little coat.
Oh yeah,
he does the fat guy in a little coat thing. I'm thinking about your head with those little headphones.
Yeah, you go ahead. Y'all laugh it up.
Bigger brain, ain't that right, Cole?
And Zach has joined in.
Zach.
Yeah, Cole, you don't have your mic.
My mic stopped working. I don't know what
really?
happened. Yeah, I mean the light comes on when I plug it in, and then nothing happens. I don't know. Weird.
Well, let's chat about prize picks and then get into this
prize picks. You know, we've been recording on Thursdays pretty much all forever. But the past 2 weeks they have yet to post their college football numbers. So go look at them. Probably Thursday evening, Friday they'll be ready to go. By the time the show comes out, they'll be stacked with college football. If you're not familiar with Prize Picks, go check them out. Go to the app, download Prize Picks, set you up an account. And if you'll use the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word, all first-time users that deposit up to and use the promo code will receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit $100, use the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word. Prize Picks will credit you $100. So you just deposit 50, they'll do you 52. How does it work? If you haven't used Prize Picks already, you're missing out. It's a lot of fun, man. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they will go more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. You're not playing against other people. You're just playing against the projection. So it's basically more or less. They give you a number. Jackson Dart, passing yards, 236 and a half. You go more or less. In states, that's 31 states basically can play anything. Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, Georgia. At least in Alabama, I know you've got to use the combo. So it would be combo picks, which would be like Jackson Dart and Peyton Thorne combined to pass for more than 375 yards. You'll go more or less. That's how easy it is. So go check them out, prizepicks.com. Remember the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word, and come join us, man. We have a lot of fun doing it, and you will too.
So Ole Miss is a 6.5 point spread over under 55.
6.5, 55. Whew. I just don't know, man. What do y'all think? Do you think this is a different team you've seen at home than you have on the road?
Well, yeah, 100%. No doubt about that.
Have you ever seen like 2 different teams in the same season as you have this season with Auburn? And I don't know, Cole, you can tell me, is it Peyton Thorne or is it the entire offense?
Yeah, listen, I could easily succumb to peer pressure here and just say it's Peyton Thorne, but I'm not that guy.
I hear you.
I just don't roll like that. It's a lot of things, man. It's little things. I don't want to go too far into that. I break it down on the board, down to the science as best as I can. But at some point, everybody's at blame, and until each position group and the coaches and everything all together collectively gets better, Auburn's not getting better on offense. Okay. I think they're going to make some incremental, adjustments to fix those things this week. I feel that somewhat, it almost feels a little bit like the hammer has been put down. from what I understand on certain things, and that has to happen. It has to.
It was an away game. If they were playing at Ole Miss, I wouldn't give Auburn a chance against. You got to think now. Ole Miss is going to put up some points at home at least. Now, after listening to Cole and Jay Head on the call-in show Sunday, Ole Miss on the road has been about. I mean, you look at what they did in Tuscaloosa; they scored 10 points. So that kind of gives me a little bit of hope for Auburn this Saturday. Is that maybe Ole Miss doesn't score its typical 34 points a game? Cole, or Justin, you might know too. What's Ole Miss's defense like?
They're hit or miss. I
Okay.
mean, their whole team is kind of hit or miss. If you look at offensively against LSU, they look phenomenal. Go look at the Georgia Tech game. I mean, they barely squeaked that out.
I forgot about that one.
Tulane was on the road, was a pretty good game. Tulane didn't have Michael Pratt. Pretty competitive. Ole Miss pulled away. Then you look at the Arkansas game at home. Ole Miss defense played pretty well, held them to 20, which is better than LSU did, better than, I guess, about as good as Alabama did. So, like, their defense is hit or miss. When they play well, they're good. And there's moments where they don't. Offense has kind of been similar. They weren't lighting the world on fire against Arkansas or Georgia Tech, but then they did against LSU, and they put 73 points on the board against somebody earlier in the year. So yeah, they're inconsistent. I mean, they're really good. I don't think that their offense is the same challenge as LSU's. Even though Ole Miss beat LSU, I think LSU's offense is far more dangerous because of Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels presents a whole bunch of different problems.
Ole Miss's defense is the epitome of boom or bust.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they're fifth in the nation, which just so happens to be fourth in the SEC in sacks per game. 3.6 sacks a game. That's a lot.
And Auburn's dead last in giving up sacks, or 13th or something. I mean, they're
12th in the SEC.
Yeah.
11th in the SEC for Ole Miss and giving up passing yards. That's 110th in the nation. 102nd in the country on third down. They're not good on third down. So
giving up thirds or
other than
converting
to the quarterback, giving up third on defense. So
I mean, Auburn can't do that, and Auburn can't throw, so it doesn't really matter. If you come in as the defense and you're like, well, we struggle against the run and we struggle giving up third downs, and you're playing Auburn, well, then you're fine, because Auburn doesn't do either of those well.
Let me ask you this: if the team that we saw play Georgia, if that team shows up, if I told you right now, hey man, I'm gonna tell you right now, the team that took Georgia to the wire, that team's going to play Saturday. That's the same type of performance Auburn's going to have. Would you have Auburn winning straight up against Ole Miss?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah, I'd have a straight up win, and the reason is because that was really the only game this season that they executed what was called really well.
Almost everything.
Almost, yeah, and controlled the clock. And it was at the end of the game when Thorne throws an interception. That whole drive is terrible. It's discombobulated because they start doing the things that we know they're not good at, and they didn't have a choice. They had to try to win the game.
Sure.
This is what I've been trying to explain to people too. You cannot just scrap everything. Okay. People are going, well, why didn't Montgomery just call things that, make sense for the personnel? Because if you call things down to the personnel, you will lose games. 100%. I can guarantee a loss. I'll go ahead and put an L in the column. You have to have stuff that helps you win the game too. Right? I mean, you can't take it all out. You can't just run the ball every play. You're not going to win. Unless you're the greatest, running offense that college football has ever seen.
Yeah. And Nebraska of, what was that, 91? Tommy Frazier and Lawrence Phillips.
95. They beat the brakes off Florida. And I think it was 95.
Fiesta Bowl, maybe?
Yeah, just crushed Florida. They beat up on Peyton Manning in Tennessee, I think in 97 or something too. So, Yeah, I don't know, but Cole, we heard from Hugh Freeze after that bye week that that's what they did. They went in, thinned out things, and assessed what the personnel can and can't do. And if they can't do it, take it out. If they can do it, coach better. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, the thing you go back to the way they played against Georgia. The thing about that game, still though, it took not only did it take getting 2 turnovers, it took getting 2 turnovers at midfield or better. I mean, Jalen picked that ball off at midfield. The fumble, I even think, was in Georgia territory, and they turned both those into touchdowns. So that's what it's going to take for this offense. They're going to need. They don't just need turnovers. They need turnovers in phenomenal field position if you're going to try to score with a Georgia and LSU or an Ole Miss. I don't. Even if the defense plays well, Ole Miss, you got to figure, is going to score. I mean, even with a couple turnovers, Georgia put up 27 in 400-something yards. I mean, Ole Miss is going to score. It's going to take 34 to win this game.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so if it's going to take 34, under what circumstances does Auburn get to 34? They only got to 20 with 2 turnovers against Georgia. Now, Georgia's defense is better than Ole Miss's, but under what circumstances does it take for Auburn to get to 34 when they haven't even sniffed 34 in 3 conference games, and then throw Cal in there 4 Power 5 games? Haven't even sniffed it.
Man, I didn't think about that. What's their offensive output in those 4 games? Like, what were the scores? They scored
14
20
against Cal, 20 against Georgia, 10 against A&M, but really 3 because one was a defensive touchdown, and then 18 against LSU.
Oh my God!
So
they've broken
20 is the most you got.
I mean, you did that with 2 turnovers
At home. Yeah, 20 is the best.
Of course,
you
should have had some points before half there too. Man,
I think their best bet, well, maybe not the best bet. It's not like there's one thing, but one thing that happened a couple years ago that helped when Lane Kiffin then came in with a better team was Lane Kiffin was really risky and went for some 4th downs and didn't get it, and that really helped Auburn. Maybe he does that again. Use that against him where he's going to go for some 4th downs. If you can stop him on some of those, that'd be big. I mean, they went for 4th downs where they probably could have kicked a couple field goals. I mean, that really helped hold them down 2 years ago. But last year, man, in Oxford, I mean, Ole Miss put up 48 and ran for 400 yards. Quinshon Judkins and all those guys. So hopefully Auburn's putting on the tape and saying, a little motivation on getting 48 hung on you and 400 rushing yards from a year ago.
So, Justin, probably from that game you referenced, well, it was probably one of those games where Lane Kiffin said, maybe going for it on 4th down is not the best thing ever all the time. And they've cut down a little bit on it this year. They've tried 16 4th downs and converted 12 of them. They have a really good success rate on those, but it's less. The attempts are less. But I'll tell you what Lane Kiffin does, and this is I think this is pretty universal for who he is. When he gets in a game that he thinks is a detrimental game to him, he's going to do things like that. It's just his style. He's going to be more aggressive, which I don't necessarily hate. A lot of people make fun of it. I think it's pretty good, personally. I like that aggressive style. If you think you're the underdog, you better go in there like that.
Yeah.
That's the way I approach it. But I think he's going to do that more. I think he's going to press a little bit more. There's that word that Freeze used about Thorne was pressing. I think he presses a little bit too when he gets in those big games. And that might be a knock people have on Lane Kiffin. So that wouldn't shock me if he did some uncharacteristic things or maybe more characteristic in this game. I don't like Auburn's chances right now because I don't like Auburn's offense. I just think it's horrible to watch. They make offense look very difficult, and I don't give them a shot to win these big games while it looks like that. But it could very well look very different this week. I think that I actually do believe that they're close. I am in the minority there. I know I am. I think they're really close to having some good offense. Auburn is.
Define good offense.
Competent?
Competent. Not necessarily top in the nation, but being able to convert when you need to, throwing the ball better, these kind of things. I think they're super close to getting that done. So it's really a matter of a week where it could turn around quickly. and I'm waiting for that to happen. I think it happens at some point this season. I don't know if it's this week.
Well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen at home. That would be my hot take, which is about as cold as you can get. I was asking Zach. Zach said Zach in the back is Auburn's only averaging 15.5 points per game against Power 5 teams. 15.5 points per game. That's, like you said, Justin, some of that's defense. 257.5 yards per game, which is probably more than I would have thought, although Auburn is number 4 in rushing in the SEC, or 4 or 5. I think Ole Miss is right behind them or in front of them. I'm curious to see what Auburn's – because, man, Auburn finally broke 100 yards against a Power 5 team, for the first time last week at LSU. I think they had 120-something. Yeah, averaging 98 passing yards per game against Power 5 teams. 98.
Yeah, I think they've trying to add it up. I think they've got 7 total touchdowns in 4 Power 5 games this year. I think it's 7 total touchdowns. That's just total touchdowns. 1 is directly the defense. 2 of those were set up to go half the field or less by the defense. So 3 of the 7 you could contribute to the defense either doing it for you or setting you up. So you're talking about four touchdowns in 4 games where you're like, the offense went out and produced 1 touchdown per Power 5 game. That you're like, no turnover, didn't set you up in midfield. The offense got the ball, put some kind of drive together, scored a touchdown. 1 time per game. That isn't going to get it done. I don't know, Cole. I want to think that they're close, but there's just so many issues. There's, it's that's kind of and I'm with you. I wish we've gotten to the point where over the years we would stop just being casual fans. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's so easy to look at the quarterback. It's so easy. It's the first thing. It's obvious. We all know it. We know a bad pass when we see it, right? We can be like, that pass was high. Everybody knows that pass was high. Or it was low or whatever. It's easy to see. But generally, there are definitely times where you can go, okay, this quarterback's terrible. He's not. But when you've seen with this offense, you've seen enough things. It's a combination. It's a combination of sometimes Peyton being inaccurate. It's a combination of the protection sometimes. Sometimes the receivers are not getting off coverage. Sometimes they're not making the play and the ball hits them in the hands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've seen everything. We've seen penalties by the offensive line. We've literally seen everything. So you're like, how does all of that come together? Stop missing penalties. Also catch the ball when it comes your way. Also trust the receivers to make plays, throw them the football. Also be accurate. Also fix protection. I hear the players say it's fixable. And yeah, it is. I mean, technically those are fixable things, but it's just a bunch of stuff that has got to turn around. And I don't know. Against a competent defense, it's hard for me to think that they're going to do a whole lot without the defense's help, forcing some turnovers, whatever. I don't. Rivaldo Fairweather said when we talked to him this week, he was like, "We're going to turn it around. We're motivated to show everybody that we can throw the football. We're going to turn it around." And I followed up with him. I go, "What gives you that confidence? Why do you say that?" And he just was like, I've seen it in practice. I think we can do it, and I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm trying to manifest it.
Was Dylan Wade almost on the other side of that? Correct me on that. How did that go with Dylan Wade exactly?
Dylan. So I asked Rivaldo and Dylan. I said, "Are you surprised at your struggles on offense?" And Rivaldo Fairweather said, "Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. We've looked good at practice at times. I thought we were, I'm a little surprised that we're not doing better." I asked Dylan Wade the exact same question. "Are you surprised at the struggles on offense?" And he goes, his first thing out of his mouth was, "You practice like you play." And then he goes, and he kind of went on to say, "I'm not that surprised. I've seen some things in practice that have become a bigger disadvantage than I thought they would be." And he even used the word apparent. He goes, "It was kind of apparent that we might have struggles." It was a lot more transparent about it, about some of those issues. He even said in the LSU game, he thought the team looked defeated before they even started. or like right after LSU scored the first touchdown, he was like, we looked like we were done. So he was pretty honest about some of that stuff. But yeah, differing answers on those two offensive guys on the offense. I think Rivaldo was just trying to say the right thing, and I think you got a little bit of honesty from Dylan Wade.
Can I say real quick, Jeffrey? I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
The reason why that is one of the most interesting things that I've heard throughout this whole process is because he is the most technically sound player on Auburn's football team.
Dylan?
He is the most fundamentally sound player on Auburn's football team. Is it possible he looks around and goes, guys, y'all are not even taking coaching right now? He looks at other guys and goes, that ain't right. Like he knows enough about it to go, that's not right. That's incorrect. I know he does. I've watched him play. He's very good, and he knows what he's doing. He has a good pass set. He's good in the run game. He gets his hat in the right place. He's a good offensive lineman, and he's technically sound, and that's one of the reasons why he's so successful. Is there a lack of technically sound players on Auburn's football team right now? Sounds like Dylan Wade thinks so.
And he's familiar, right? I mean, coming from Tulsa, he's going to be familiar with a good number of the concepts that Philip Montgomery is certainly trying to get into.
Definitely. Muskrat, too.
It's got to be frustrating for him and guys like him, right?
Sure.
My thought earlier, Justin, I was thinking about, the way the fans have reacted and because they acted like, this was a 9-10 win team and now it's not going to be, and they're freaking out and mostly about the offense and how bad it has been. And I'm thinking, man, like, why didn't fans and even myself see this coming, see some offensive struggles? Because my least concern coming into the season was the offense. And do you know why? And I thought about this. Do you remember that rainstorm back in April that basically canceled the A-Day game?
Oh, yeah. Terrible day. Cold.
We didn't get to see them. Nobody got to see this team. I wonder, had we seen that at A-Day, could we have said, all right, man, this is going to be a long process, a little bit longer than we even thought. I'm just saying, it was almost like maybe had we seen an A-Day performance, we would say, let's pump the brakes on this potential 8 to 9 win season. Because they've been bad.
You also didn't have Thorne in the mix then either.
He sure wasn't, was it? He didn't get here till late summer.
Yeah.
Boy, you know what? They would have had that performance on A-Day, and people would have been like, oh, it's all right. Thorne's coming in. He's passed for how many yards, Cole?
Right.
Well, whatever he threw for at Michigan State, it's basically the same number at this point. Not much has changed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It's still 6,000 yards.
Yeah. Plus a few.
I wonder how good Keon Coleman made him look.
Oh, my God. Keon Coleman is sick.
Oh, yeah. That makes all the difference. I mean, look.
And Tyrone Howell, like, why didn't they bring in Tyrone Howell? I still wonder, like, what the heck happened with that? That kid's lighting it up.
It's not the only thing. I mean, Zach said Aiden Reed, guy that went second in the NFL draft last year. He had those guys, but man, I mean, it was like I was showing y'all on the fade routes. They give them 1 inch of separation. It's just little things like that. It's almost like if a light bulb goes off, this offense is totally different overnight. And that's why all this stuff is fixable. That's why it's not like I don't see any scheme problems. A lot of people want to point to that and go, oh, well, it's Montgomery. He's scheming plays open, guys. Seen plenty. I've seen.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I've seen enough to make me go, hey, this offense ain't bad. You're not executing it.
Yeah, there's opportunities.
Missed throws and drop balls.
Yeah. And the game plan against Georgia, fantastic. Fantastic. And I think one of the reasons is because if you're going to go with 2 quarterbacks, you can't make it obvious what you're going to do when Peyton Thorne's in the game, not Robbie Ashford. Because when Peyton Thorne's in the game, they're about to drop back and throw it. Nope, we ran the same stuff we're running with the power read, inside zone, veer looking stuff. Hey, quarterback pulled it. We had no idea number one could do that. That's exactly why Lane Kiffin this week has been saying the things he's saying. He's not trolling. You can't put it past him. He trolls a lot, but he's talking about Peyton Thorne being a running threat. He's worried about that because he knows the defense will get lulled to sleep every time he comes back in the game. Oh, he's not going to pull it. It's the opposite. So you think when Robbie Ashford comes in, it's going to run every time. But every time Thorne's in, you can really mess with them if you do it right. And that's what they did against Georgia. They got to do it again. They got to find a way to do that again.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they'll play well. They need a good first quarter. Because to me, it's like the LSU game was such a debacle, and you hear Hugh Freeze talk about the defense not lacking juice and stuff, and that was such a debacle that the first quarter is so big to try to get some momentum back. I think they'll play well. I think they'll be competitive because it's at home, but they need a good start to really get them to really get them going. And we'll see how that plays out. The LSU start was atrocious. That's kind.
Did Auburn score on its opening drive against Georgia? Was that when Peyton took it 60-something yards?
I feel like it was the second drive.
Okay.
Because they got pinned down because Georgia punted. Well, it might have been the first drive. If Georgia got the ball.
They were back deep when Peyton took off. Because it was like 60 yards and
first drive.
He was like on the 25 or something.
That was the second drive.
Was it? Yeah, it was the second drive. Yeah.
Yeah. Do y'all understand what I'm saying by that, though? Because it was very obvious in the LSU game with Peyton Thorne. And I did the play script, so I know how obvious it was. He had like 15 dropbacks, no design quarterback runs, no zone reads, no power reads. Ashford comes in the game. He gets all that stuff. So it was a very separate game plan for each quarterback.
They were making it obvious.
Yeah, they didn't have a separate game plan for the quarterbacks in Georgia. They just ran the offense they prepared for, whoever the quarterback was in the game.
Yeah, and they were successful running the ball.
Right.
They were successful running the ball. One of the things they were doing a little bit on Tuesday during the viewing window that we saw was they were working on rolling the quarterbacks out and throwing on the run. It sort of struck me as something that I haven't seen them do much this year. And you've got two athletic guys. Does that limit your options? Yeah, because then it limits half the field. But you've had issues with protection. You've got some guys that can move. I just wondered if maybe that's going to be a little bit part of the game plan, is try to get them out of the pocket a few times and give them two reads and simplify it a little bit. If it's not there, run. Something like that. But that was something that they were doing a little bit that I hadn't necessarily seen them specifically working on, getting out of the pocket, throwing on the run, that type of stuff. But we talk about the offense struggling, which it has. The defense, to me, is an issue now as well. I mean, three straight games, they've given up more yards, more points. Now you're playing Georgia and LSU. LSU's going to get off the bus and score 35, basically. But the defense has got some issues too now getting off the field. I think I noted that after the first three games, just shows you competition. After like those first 3 weeks, maybe if you include A&M, they were like top 5 in third down defense. Now they're like 47th in the country. It just shows you how bad the last 2 games have been getting off the field on defense. And now you got a little bit of additional drama that the players have got to navigate through with Wesley McGriff taking a step back, not on the field coaching corners anymore. He's at an off the field role now. And just the drama around that. Players tend to handle stuff pretty well, so I think they'll be fine. I think that's more long-term drama that Hugh Freeze is going to have to deal with versus the players. They're pretty resilient. I don't think it'll affect him a whole lot. Zach Etheridge will be able to handle the DBs, and his right-hand guy, Jeremiah Wilson, will be able to help. And Tanner Burns now goes on the field and coaches special teams. He was already doing special teams. Now he's actually going to be on the field coaching. Roberts helps a little bit with the corners and stuff. So Probably, I don't think it's a big deal in terms of wins and losses at the moment, but I think it's just more of a decision that Hugh Freeze is going to have to deal with after the season. I think it's going to be more drama in his plate.
Tanner Burns will be on the field as the special teams coach, which he was already doing, right?
Yeah, he was already doing. They thought that the NCAA was going to approve that 11th.
Oh, yeah.
And then they didn't. And so, Burns is the special teams coach, but during games he can't be on the field. And so that kind of hindered him. I mean, technically you're not even supposed to be leading meetings and all that, but but yeah.
So Tanner hasn't been on the field all season?
I haven't specifically looked for him, but he shouldn't be, as far as I understand. I think there's a certain number of on the field or in the box, one or the other.
Wonder what he's listed as.
What is his actual title?
Yeah. He is the special teams coordinator.
Yeah. He's been on the field, Cole.
I've seen him with a headset on.
I have too. That's why I asked.
I never looked.
I saw him last week at LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they're like, let's just do it. And unless somebody specifically finds, picks him out, right? Like unless somebody points him out or something.
Well, does the coordinators being in the box, do they count as on the field?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I don't know. I
don't know.
think
this is probably arbitrary crap. I think on the field to me, especially with what Cole and I do primarily, is can they go off campus and recruit?
Yeah.
Those are the guys that we care about.
It could mean it actually could be more. On the field means you can go off campus and recruit. It means you can lead meetings and do stuff like that. That technically, so he can literally be on the field, but there's other things he by rule isn't supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah. But now he can do all of those things, which he's already kind of, other than going off campus, he's doing a lot of that stuff behind the scenes. So I think the big issue is McGriff and long term, the big issue is McGriff and Ron Roberts, and what happens. There's clearly some value in Wesley McGriff. You guys know probably better than I do in the recruiting scene. Hugh Freeze sees a lot of value in him, so there's going to be a question at the end of the year about who's more valuable, Wesley McGriff or Ron Roberts. That question is probably going to be one that Hugh Freeze is going to have to answer.
Sensitive mic. Yes, Zach, I was. I apologize. I was actually hitting my boom arm.
Zach's producing.
Let's see. Well, does anybody have Auburn upsetting Ole Miss?
No, I don't. I would. The reason I say that is because I would be shocked if Auburn wins this game.
You would or would not?
I would be shocked.
You would be.
But it wouldn't be like the shock of the century, but it would shock me, if that makes sense. So I would pick Ole Miss to win if I were betting on it. Now we always do the lines. I was so wrong on the line last week with LSU. Hit it with Georgia. The line is what, 6.5 Ole Miss? Yeah.
That's a tough one, man. I think it's going to be a touchdown game. I think it'll be a one-score game. I don't know if it'll be a deal where Ole Miss scores a last late touchdown to make it a 13, 14-point game, or if they're up 14 points and Auburn scores kind of a last minute touchdown to kind of cut into the lead. But let's see here, 6.5 and 55. That's got it around 31-24, which is probably where I would put it. I gave the points last week. I'd probably take the points this week. For some reason, Auburn at home, I'm not going to bet against them. And when it comes to the points, so I would take the 6.5. I'll take the 6.5. I'm going to say it's 28-24, 27-24, something like that. Again, it could be that Ole Miss scores a touchdown, or Ole Miss could be up 28-17. Auburn scores a late touchdown to cut into the lead and make it look more respectable than it was. But I think 28-24, 3-4 point game.
I know if I'm
only because it's at home.
Right. Well, that gives me some. That's why I'm even iffy on the line. If it were away, I'd go, all right, Ole Miss gets those points.
Absolutely.
But if I'm an outsider looking at this game, trying to bet on it, man, it is so unpredictable because Ole Miss is unpredictable, like super unpredictable. They have stats where they're top 10 in the country, and then they have them where they're bottom 10 in the country. I mean, there's no way to predict that team. Auburn's almost in the same boat. They're a little bit more predictable because they're more on the back end of things, but they're close to being unpredictable. You'd rather them be a little more unpredictable, I think.
They're predictably average.
Right.
That's what they are.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, Auburn's defense is in Alabama's, but Alabama held them to 10 points, so we know Ole Miss offense can be held in check.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn's not Alabama, but still, I'm just saying they're not such a juggernaut that even good defenses can't hold them in check. I don't know which way to go in this game because I do think Auburn will play well at home. I'm worried about a little bit about kind of where they're at mindset wise after the LSU game. I did hear they practiced really well on Tuesday. Somebody even told me that was one of their best practices of the year. You got Keontae Scott coming back. Now, while he won't be 100%, he'll play some snaps. He'll provide a little energy. And I think he's good enough to go. Like, he'll play. He just won't be a guy that can play 100% of the snaps, can go. He's got to work himself back in for a game, but he'll be in pretty decent shape, I think. We'll see if he returns punts. I think he wants to get back there. We'll see if they let him return punts. And so I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to potentially. Here's the other thing I'm thinking about. I thought that Auburn going 2 weeks leading into LSU, I thought that was going to be a huge advantage. 2 weeks, rest up, prepare. And it looked like it was the exact opposite. It looked like whatever they did, the momentum they gained against Georgia, it looked like they had lost it. And that now makes me look at Ole Miss. At first, I'm sitting here thinking 2 weeks to prepare, rest up. Boy, Ole Miss is going to come in here. Good luck. But it could go the other way. I mean, maybe Ole Miss is playing good football. I mean, beat LSU, beat Arkansas, then bye week. So do they lose a little bit of momentum? Do they come in? Do they have a rusty first quarter? That I think that's very possible. Can Auburn jump out on them 10-0 and see what happens? So, and Lane is risky enough that he could give Auburn some opportunities going forward on fourth down or forcing the issue a little bit at times. I don't know, man. It's gonna be close. I think back to last year, Auburn just getting shredded on the ground. I think Auburn's better, a little bit better positioned this year against the run, but Judkins is getting a little more healthy. So I don't know, man. I think this is going to be a tight game that is going to come down to some things that I'm not sure we can predict, whether it's turnovers, whether it's converting some third downs, fourth downs, whatever it is. Auburn's just got to, even more than the turnovers against Georgia, Auburn didn't commit penalties. They got to at least do that. They got to play a clean football game. Offensive line can't have false starts and holds and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think the smart move would be to take Ole Miss. But I really think it's going to be a tight game. But I think it's a huge game for Auburn. If they come off that LSU and they can't rebound and they come home and they lose again by 10 or so, then I think you got a problem with this team. And you're seriously going, I don't know if they're going bowling. I'm not sure. Because you come off that and you kind of look similar and Ole Miss takes care of you, you got an issue. If they can rebound and get off the mat and pull off an upset here by a point or 3 points or something like that, McPherson hits a field goal, then, I mean, it would just be massive. It would be so massive.
It would.
For this team going forward. It's trying to win at Arkansas, taking care of Mississippi State next week, or having a chance at Bama. I mean, it just coming back off the mat would be so huge versus a fourth loss in 5 weeks, 4 straight SEC losses. I think it's a big game for morale. I think it's a big game for morale of the team going forward. But it's hard for me to say Auburn's going to upset. There's just not enough there that they've done for me to say they're going to just turn around and go score 30 and win the game. So I would say Ole Miss is, if I were betting, I'm saying Ole Miss money line, but I do think it's going to be really close.
Justin, this is an interesting point about the penalties. Because I sit here and I talk about the technical issues and the small things, and I just want to reiterate. It sounds like I'm talking about the coaching, and maybe I am a little bit, but it's not just the coaching. I don't think, because a bad coach team would not have that few penalties, and Auburn's still one of the best teams in the country.
Absolutely,
in penalties. So something's registering, but it's the you can lead a horse to water thing. There's a lot of that going on too, I think, and that might have something to do with the transfer portal.
One of the things Hugh Freeze said on Wednesday, and sometimes when you hear a coach point this out, you're like, okay, it's kind of, you sort of had that stat prepared to sort of defend yourself, but it's a fair point. I think he pointed out that against LSU, 11 of the 22 starters in that game before the season had never started an SEC game. And of course, that's a lot of the portal. That's getting guys in from the portal, and not just SEC. A lot of the guys that came in from the portal weren't even Power 5 portal guys. And there's a competition level difference, certainly even there. I don't know, but we're at the point now where you're 3 games in. But he kind of made that point talking about they've never played in the SEC, so now go on the road in College Station and do it. Go on the road in Baton Rouge. These guys have played. Going into LSU, they had played 2 SEC games. 1 was in College Station. Now they've played 3 SEC games ever. 1 was in Death Valley. 1 was in College Station. That's a pretty big. That's worth noting. The adjustment that could take for these guys. It kind of sounds like excuse making, but I also think it's a fair point too.
Justin, I can hear the rebuttal right now. I can hear it. I've been on the corner long enough. I know everybody's got to come back for everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear it.
Yeah.
It is. Well, what about the other schools that had 20 transfer portal guys? I would ask how many of those are in their first year as head coach at that program. Deion Sanders, yeah, they're looking pretty good. Who else? That was a joke.
Yeah,
they just lost to Stanford in about the most horrible way you could imagine. Is there anybody else that's got 20 plus transfers and in their first year of a Power 5 head coaching job?
I don't know. Auburn was up there in terms of numbers. And again, Power 5, like Keon Coleman that Florida State got. Well, he's coming from Power 5, like Peyton did. But a lot of those guys, Gunnar Britton, Avery Jones, Dylan Wade, Jair Shorter, Shane Hooks, Brian Batty. None of these dudes are none of that's Power 5. Jalen McLeod, Lawrence Johnson's Power 5. Nasili Kite was Power 5.
It'd be easier to name the Power 5 guys. Justin Rogers.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Nolan, not name anymore. That was a Power 5 guy.
So I guess it's worth something watching, but it's got to start now. Like you've played maybe the 3 of the better teams in the league. You're about to play Ole Miss. What did Zach say?
Yeah, he was going along with my question, but then he stopped himself and said, "But that is a G5 school. Texas State has the only other school that ranked that high number of transfers."
Wow.
Is Texas State a first-year head coach guy too? Zach, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, he is. G.J. Kinney, first year there. So that's kind of my point. Are you in your first year and do you have 20-plus transfers? If you can find that somewhere else besides Colorado in college football, I'd like to see if somebody's doing it better. I think that's a fair case study to do here. I wanted to ask you a question too. I wanted to ask both of y'all a question. Which of the 4 major injuries for Auburn has been the most detrimental, in your opinion? Austin Keys, Javarius Johnson, Mosiah Nasili Kite, or Javarius Johnson?
Or Keontae Scott?
I said Scott, didn't I?
You said Johnson twice.
Oh, Keontae Scott. I have one. I don't know if y'all agree with it.
Man, I want to say Kite.
Yeah.
Because
how much worse did Auburn's defensive line look without him?
Because he was the best defensive lineman on the team, according to you, and I take in my opinion, making it from yours. So to me, if you lose your best defensive lineman, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And you've replaced him with you've moved one true freshman, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Zacchaeus Walker looked terrible.
Oh my God, dude! I made it a point to watch him.
He's a little slow to play 5.
He looked when he was a true freshman, he had flashes. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah, I know.
I'm like another big athletic dude. Like, where'd this guy come from?
Yes.
Like, he had flashes of like another Marlon Davidson or something like that.
I remember talking to Jay Tate back then and going, man, that dude's going to be a monster. Zeke Walker. Yeah, he was a monster.
Yeah, Cole. I don't know. I think Nasili Kite could. He's only now missed 1 game, so we'll see. We'll have more data as they go, and we can point to like as
it's
they
a good
go.
question because I mean,
but I think the Keontae one. Yeah, Keontae coming back, but Keontae's a big one too, just because I think Keontae is maybe the best football player on the whole team, and I also think if Keontae Scott's healthy, I think they beat Georgia. I think Keontae Scott matches up against Brock Bowers and could have done some good things there. Brock's awesome, but Keontae Scott's got some length. I think he would have really helped, and I think they beat Georgia if Keontae Scott's healthy.
I agree with that, and don't get me wrong, all 4 of them. There's a very good case to be made that
I was going to say I could make a case for any of them.
Varys Johnson, how much would he help? I mean, he could help. He's a good route runner. He actually does run the routes the way I think
he can get open,
and he's played a bunch of football. Jay Fair hasn't. Javar's played a bunch of football. He might play this week. We saw him out there Tuesday, but when you're coming off a hamstring, but he's running around. I mean, so now it could be chilly. I don't know if that'll affect how loose he is, but he'll probably get out there a little bit.
And also, in an attempt to get Asante and Nixon off the field for a breather, you could have Keys. I think that would be a little bit better than Riley and Riley and Steiner. They're iffy sometimes, so that's why they're not starting right now. That would be the case there. There's a lot of cases to be made. Those 4 injuries are tough, man. Tough.
When you're so thin, any starter is tough.
Exactly.
Look who they're replacing him with. All 4 of them.
That was my theory that I was trying to formulate on the Collins show, Jeffrey. I don't think I formulated it well. Is it possible we were looking at it wrong? Hugh Freeze worried and tight about the offense. No. He's worried about the defense.
Yeah.
I don't think
when you made that post on the corner following that, or maybe it was even on Monday, I was like, oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. Made perfect sense.
Yeah. That's what he said in the Monday press conference. He reiterated it, and I was like, yep, that is what
he said. Well, after the game, I mean, I was there in Baton Rouge and in the interview room after, he was asked about pace, and he said, he was like, yeah, but he goes, he basically said it's an internal debate we've been having. Run fast, but then we've also got a defense to think about, and I don't know what the right answer is, but he kind of left it by saying we're probably not going to sit out there and go 100 miles an hour. We just can't do it. I don't have the depth. First of all, they're not even efficient enough on offense. Like, that's its own issue. But they also don't have the depth on defense to do it, which is a big discussion I was having when some of the guys in the media after the Freeze press conference was like, I feel like they're playing in the middle ground. Either run your offense, pace and all. Just run it. It's your first year. Say, this is what we're doing. Get everybody acclimated. If it means this is what you do, then do it, or go the other way, put Robbie in and run the ball. I feel like they're kind of playing in the middle ground of they're running the schemes, but they're not running the pace. And when you're not running the pace, and that's a big part of what you do, like, you got one hand tied behind your back. And so it's just we saw that with Gus sometimes when you build your offense around pace and then you decide not to run pace. That messes with stuff. And it's just not ever going to look, because part of maybe some of your schemes are more simplistic because you're going to run pace and you need to be able to do it. Well, then you take away pace and I don't know. I struggle with that. I almost think they just say, screw it, run pace. Like, I almost asked Nehemiah Pritchett, hey, Hugh Freeze said he was nervous about running pace. Would you care if the offense went out there and just flew? If it meant you playing 10 more snaps, would you care if they just went at their pace? He'd probably go, no, like, go do your thing.
No,
I would guess that's what they'd say.
Marcus Harris doesn't care playing 80 snaps, but that's a coach's decision. Hey, I don't know if you're the same Marcus Harris at 80 snaps as you are at 60 snaps, right?
I just think playing in this middle ground. I don't like it.
At some point, I mean, if it gets too far, you're going to have to go, all right, well, here we go. I'm going to have to let it go. And that might be where you're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It feels like he's trying to manufacture.
He knows that.
Yeah. It feels like he's trying to manufacture 6 wins. How can I piece together to go to a bowl game? Little Peyton. We're going to pull back pace. I just need to piece this thing and manufacture getting to a bowl versus I'm going to do my thing. And if it means we win, we go 5-7, so be it. But I'm going to run my stuff and prepare it for next year.
Right.
I posted on the board just a joke. It was just a joke from the movie We Are Marshall, the clip from that movie where Matthew McConaughey he holds up a book. And he goes, gentlemen, the reason I'm here is because of the power I. It's what I've done all my life. It's the best thing in the world. It's going in the trash. And you tell me what the most simplistic offense is that we could possibly win a game with.
Yeah.
That's what the movie said. I was like, that's pretty funny.
Sounds a good one. All right, so we're all thinking Ole Miss slightly, but we all think it's going to be competitive.
Yeah, and listen, I think Cole said it. Maybe I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn wins. They're at home. They've played good football at home. I wouldn't be surprised. Really wouldn't. If I was going to pick an upset, I'd probably pick an upset on this game because they're at home. I'm saving that for Bama, though.
Could be a special night. Auburn get an upset. Hugh Freeze beats Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn fans get to stick it to Lane a little bit. It could be a very, very big night for a lot of reasons and emotional for fans and players. Could be a great night. It could be another really tough night. I don't know. It's a big game. It's a big game for a lot of reasons.
Speaking of Bama, they play Tennessee this week. That'll be interesting. Peyton Manning said, it's funny. I mean, I can't think of the last time Alabama beat us. The series has been so one-sided since 2022, you know.
Great.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I love it.
Another good slate of games this weekend, as always.
Yeah, should be a good one. All right, boys, let's get out of here. AuburnLive.com. Go check it out. Go subscribe. You got like another few hours, big game special, half off an annual subscription. Go jump on that. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications, do all that good stuff, and be there on Friday, Saturday, big recruiting weekend. The guys will have plenty of recruiting coverage Saturday night, Sunday, all that good stuff as well. So make sure you're tuned into that. We'll see you next time.